I am a flight attendant. My husband, he's a very successful man, but he doesn't love me. Every month, he takes the flight I'm working on. Each time, he brings along a different glamorous woman. My heart feels like it's being torn apart, yet all I can do is silently endure it. The last time, just before the plane landed, I walked over, leaned down by his ear, and whispered softly, "Oscar, I agree to the divorce. I'm off tomorrow, let's get it done." Chapter 1. The plane was flying smoothly at 10,000 meters above the ground. I was checking the meal trays near the tail section when the chief purser came over. I immediately stood straight. "Chief Purser." She took the checklist from my hands and went through it. "You're qualified to move up to first-class service. Why haven't you applied?" "Chief Purser, I still have a lot to learn. I'm not good enough yet. Modesty is a virtue, but being too modest isn't good for your own growth. Go heat up the meals." She handed the checklist back to me and returned to first class. My eyes followed her and landed on the passenger in seat 1A. No one else knew that the most prestigious black card holder in first class was my husband, and sitting next to him was a stunningly beautiful woman. I couldn't go into first class. I couldn't bring myself to kneel slightly and serve my own husband and his companion with a professional smile. Even though, since our wedding a year ago, we've never shared a marital night. Chapter 2. I was forced into this marriage with Oscar by our grandfathers. My grandfather and his used to be comrades in arms. On our wedding night, he unbuttoned his shirt halfway, then got up and went to the balcony to smoke. Halfway through the cigarette, he turned his head toward me. "I own a lot of properties. I might not come back every day. Do whatever you want." And he meant every word. He came home once a month, at most. Later, his scandals with other women made it into the tabloids. Before I could even call to ask him about it, he called me first. "If you want a divorce, I'll agree anytime." That one sentence left me speechless. All I could do was nod. "I understand." Some time passed before he returned home again. "You still don't want to get divorced?" At that moment, I finally realized how eager he was to end this marriage. But I went to bed early and ignored him. That night, my pillow was damp with tears. No one knew that I had already fallen for him long ago. 7 years ago, we had met once before, but he had long forgotten. Chapter 3. "Hello, here's your chicken rice meal. Please enjoy." After finishing the meal service, I pushed the cart down the aisle, passing through the business class section. He was sitting there, focused on his work. Beside him, a woman draped in a brightly colored silk scarf admired the clouds outside the window. The chief purser walked over and knelt slightly. "Sir, would you like to change into slippers? I can help you take off your shoes." "I can do it myself." He declined politely. "Ma'am, allow me to help you. Please change into the slippers." The woman turned her gaze back and smiled. "Thank you." At that very moment, Oscar lifted his head, and our eyes met. I immediately looked away and hurriedly pushed the cart down the aisle. 2 hours later, the plane landed. "Thank you for flying with us. Goodbye." As they disembarked, the woman slipped her arm through his. The wind caught her hair, lifting those soft curls like strands of seaweed. Chapter 4. Still staring? They've already gotten into the private car. I turned back and noticed that all my colleagues had picked up their bags and were ready to leave. "Sorry. Chief Purser, do you like him?" I shook my head immediately. "No." She patted my shoulder with a small smile. "Don't give up the next opportunity for promotion." Chapter 5. That night, Oscar came home. I hadn't expected it. When he arrived, I was sitting on the couch, my half-dried hair hanging loosely, pretending to watch TV. In truth, my mind was blank. I wasn't watching anything at all. His tall, upright figure filled the room, making it feel suddenly smaller. I wanted to say something, but the memory of what I saw on the plane flashed through my mind, and I decided against it. He sat on the opposite sofa and took a phone call. That's when I noticed the faint smell of alcohol on him. I grabbed a bag of chips, tore it open, and quietly ate one piece at a time. "Morning meeting at 9 tomorrow." He hung up the phone and looked at me. I looked back. "Nothing you want to ask me?" I shook my head, putting down the chips. I went to the bathroom. In the mirror, my face looked calm, but pale. When I came out, he was on the balcony. A few seconds later, The light from his phone disappeared. He turned slightly. There was a faint smile on his lips, and then it faded away. I froze, silent. His happiness, after all, had nothing to do with me. Chapter 6. He slept in the guest bedroom. I woke up early to go to the airline office. He was already up, too. As the elevator descended, we stood apart, each on our own side. When it reached the first floor, I stepped out, while he continued down to the parking garage. That day, the weather was terrible. During the flight, we encountered extreme turbulence. The plane shook violently, dropping several times. When we finally landed safely, everyone burst into tears. The incident later became a heated topic online. In the busy airport terminal, I stopped and checked my phone. Not a single call. My sadness, too, had nothing to do with him. Chapter 7. I saw him again. It was a month later, on the flight from Baiyun Airport to Tianfu. The weather that day was truly beautiful. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the flight was perfectly smooth from start to finish. He was with the same woman as before. Her skin was porcelain white. Midway through the flight, she leaned on his shoulder and drifted peacefully to sleep. That day also happened to be a holiday, Women's Day. The airline had prepared roses for the occasion. Dear ladies and gentlemen, today is International Women's Day. Our airline has prepared a rose for every female passenger on this flight. May all women remain fearless in time and graceful for life. Happy Women's Day. Thank you. Your airline is so thoughtful. I usually don't get flowers even on holidays. Can't believe I got one just by taking a flight. Miss. Happy Women's Day to you too. After finishing the flower distribution, I looked toward the business class cabin. The chief purser was handing a rose to the woman beside Oscar. Happy Women's Day. Shall I place the flower on your tray table? Sure. Chapter 8. I returned to the galley, washed the trays, and sat down at my workstation. I looked out at the clouds. My heart was calm, but aching. The clouds parted. My cold fingers trembled slightly. I tilted my head back. Some people were never meant to be yours. Letting go is the only way to set both of you free. Ladies and gentlemen, our plane will be landing at Tianfu Airport in 30 minutes. We look forward to seeing you again on your next journey. As the plane began to descend, I stood up, walked over to his seat, and spoke softly. Oscar, I agree to the divorce. I'm off tomorrow. Let's take care of it then. Chapter 10. After work, I dragged a large suitcase behind me. I pressed my fingerprint against the lock and pushed open the door. To my surprise, he was already home early. Was it because of the divorce? Maybe, now that it was finally ending. This house no longer felt suffocating to him. I carried the suitcase inside, put some rice in the cooker, then went to the bedroom to start packing. He stood by the door for a moment. Don't pack. This house is yours. I froze, then slowly turned around and shook my head. This house was yours before the marriage. I didn't contribute a cent. I can't take it. After saying that, I went back to packing. He stood there for a while longer, then left. I was grateful that he did. Piece by piece, I folded my clothes into the suitcase, swept all the bottles and jars from the dresser, and packed them away. It felt as though I had only been staying here temporarily, and now it was time to move out. At that moment, I couldn't feel even a trace of being the mistress of this home. Pathetic, powerless, and utterly defeated. Chapter 11. I hadn't expected him to come home that night. I hadn't bought any groceries. There was no need to. Really, gone were the days when I would rush to cook several dishes the moment he came home, hoping to win back his heart through his stomach. When the rice finished cooking, I went downstairs to the small cold dish restaurant and bought a few simple plates. Let's eat, I said. He set his book down by the floor-to-ceiling window and walked over. The dishes on the table seemed to take him by surprise. I thought you weren't coming back tonight, I said softly. I figured you'd go straight to the civil office tomorrow, so I didn't buy groceries. We'll just make do with this. I took a few small bites of rice. He, who had always been so particular about food, actually sat down to eat without a word. At the table, silence stretched between us. Halfway through the meal, he spoke. Where did you buy these cold dishes? They're pretty good. By the end, he had finished the entire bowl of rice I'd served him. Chapter 12. After dinner, I washed the dishes and cleaned the kitchen thoroughly. He sat in the balcony chair, his hands resting on the armrests, lost in thought. I realized I didn't know him at all. He was like a boss, and I was just a flight attendant. Our worlds never really crossed. And yet, 7 years ago, because of a single fleeting moment of light, he became imprinted in my heart, a mark I could never erase. Heaven must have pitied me, letting two people from such different worlds come together. But we were strangers, too different to understand each other. In the end, we failed even that small mercy, because he deserved someone better. If people were like pearls, then standing next to him, I must be one of the dullest ones. After tidying the bedroom, I took a shower. Then I packed all my toiletries from the bathroom into a small bag. He took several calls on the balcony during that time, glancing at me now and then. Chapter 13. In the living room, I packed up all the things that belonged to me, sealed the boxes with tape. There wasn't much left to take. When I finished, I sat on the sofa for a moment to rest. He came in. His legs were long, his posture composed. There was hardly a flaw in him. So young, yet already so successful. These past 2 years, I owe you an apology, he said. He placed a black card on the table. The password is your birthday. I turned my head slightly to look at him. He still remembered my birthday, after all. Or maybe he had to look it up just to reset the password. I don't need it, I said quietly. My salary's enough to take care of myself. Keep the card. He sat down beside me. Since I refused the card, he didn't take it back either. Can I ask you something? I said. Go ahead. Will you get married again? Will you hold a big wedding? When we got married, we had only registered the license. After that, we had dinner with his family. Simple, understated, and cold. If he married again, it would surely be to the woman he truly loved. A grand ceremony, a beautiful bride, surrounded by blessings and light. Don't overthink it. Go to bed early, he said. He'd given permission for me to ask, but he never answered. He stood up and went to the bedroom. I sat there a while longer, then went to bed too. Chapter 14. He woke up earlier than I did the next morning. I grabbed my documents. Let's go. We walked to the parking garage and got into his car. He drove in silence toward the Civil Affairs Bureau. I looked out the window at the stream of traffic. The passenger seat was soft and comfortable, yet I'd barely ever sat there. I hadn't expected that the last time I would sit in it would be on our way to get divorced. I couldn't help but think about that woman he brought on the plane, the only one he'd taken twice. What was it like when she sat in the seat? Did she snack while chatting with him? Did he play music for her? But then my mind went blank, and I stopped wondering. I realized I truly was beginning to let go, to release everything about this marriage. When we arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, the whole process was quiet. Signatures, stamps, and the final document handed over. The booklet in my hands felt cold, without warmth or weight. I'll move my things out today, I said. No need to rush. Take your time. You should head to the office. I'll go too. When I got home, I filled out the courier forms and mailed my packages one by one to the dormitory. For the last remaining suitcase, I carried it to the door, deleted my fingerprint from the smart lock, closed the door behind me, and left. Chapter 15. After that, I went back to my routine at work. The pain of the divorce faded gradually with time. During the 3 months after, I never once saw him on any of my flights. So all those times before, he must have done it on purpose. On purpose, to make me uncomfortable, so I'd give up on my own. But in life, no feast lasts forever, and no pain remains eternal. Once you walk out of it, you're free. Once lovers, now strangers who can face each other calmly. Just like him and me, when we meet again, we'll simply be strangers. Chapter 16. At the end of the 4th month, he appeared on my flight again. This time, there was no woman beside him. I hadn't been promoted to first class yet. But when I went to the front cabin to fetch something, I saw him. He never looked up, and I quickly walked past. At the last row of first class, Casey, one of the captains on this flight, was resting. He stood up suddenly, blocking my path. Let's grab dinner after work. I nearly lost my balance at his abruptness. I have to study the flight regulations tonight, preparing for my assessment. I replied politely. It's just dinner, won't take long. Let's make it official. He interrupted with a grin. During dinner, I'll teach you a memorization trick for the regulations. It'll save you half the effort. Casey's tone was confident as he walked past me. He turned back. It's settled then. I'll go switch shifts first. A few of my colleagues glanced over and covered their mouths. Giggling, I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. Quickly pulled the curtain closed and returned to my station. Coffee, please, came a familiar voice. Of course, sir. Behind me, I heard Oscar's voice, talking quietly with my colleague. Chapter 17. 2 hours later, the plane landed. Most of the passengers had already disembarked. A colleague came over, and we began checking the luggage compartments together. How's it going? She asked. How's what going? Don't play dumb. The captain's obviously into you. You're not planning to say yes? Stop talking nonsense. Oh, come on. Just admit it. What's wrong? You don't like him? She grinned. Don't be too picky, Daniela. I heard a few trainees from the other airline were already asking for his number today. He's the youngest single captain around. Half the girls are watching him. Talking about me? Casey's voice came from behind us. What? You're here to ask Daniela out again? Can't wait. Huh? Excuse me, he said calmly. My colleague shut her mouth at once and stepped aside. I froze. Oscar hadn't gotten off the plane yet. He had just come out of the restroom. Thank you for flying with us, sir. Wish you a pleasant journey, I said automatically. My colleague instantly recognized him as the VIP passenger from first class. I couldn't say a word. As he passed, he turned his head slightly and looked at me. I lowered my eyes. It wasn't polite for crew members to meet a passenger's gaze too directly. Have a good day, I murmured. Casey nodded politely to him as well before walking over to me. Come on, he said with a smile. We're off duty. What do you want to eat? Chapter 18. Casey and I walked out through the airport gates. He had already booked a restaurant and even called a car, amid teasing smiles from my colleagues. I was practically pushed into the back seat. The restaurant he chose was a stylish steakhouse downtown, with soft lighting and elegant decor. Casey was effortlessly funny and charming. There was something about him that reminded me of the campus heartthrob from college. Easygoing, confident, and warm. He had a good personality, too. Halfway through dinner, he looked up at me. So, what's the matter? Don't like me? He lightly tapped my forehead. No, you're misunderstanding, I said quickly, feeling flustered. I picked up my glass of fruit wine and took a small sip. Heartbroken. Huh? He teased. Don't make wild guesses. He shrugged. Sounds like I hit the mark. That's fine. My shoulder's right here if you ever need it. I propped my chin on my hand, listening to the violinist across the room, pretending not to hear him. When we took the elevator down afterward, the glass walls revealed the glittering city outside. Casey leaned a little closer and gently took my hand. His voice floated above me. Daniela, give me a chance. Let's see where it goes, okay? I pulled my hand back and looked up at him. What's wrong, silly girl? He bent slightly, and for a brief moment, our lips were almost touching. He was wearing a white t-shirt, his skin flawless and warm under the light, radiating that unmistakable boyish sunshine charm. I turned my face away, feeling my whole body heat up. The elevator seemed to move unbearably slowly, creaking its way down floor by floor. He leaned in again, standing close beside me, scared. Huh? Silly girl. I turned my head, a little annoyed. How exactly am I silly? He brushed my nose playfully, moving even closer. Well, you're not silly, but you know, those two words can mean something else, right? The elevator doors opened. People were waiting to come in. I hurried out. Later, when I got home, my phone buzzed with a message from him. For the next 6 days, I get to enjoy myself for 3 of them. I frowned. What do you mean? He sent a photo, our flight roster. See the schedule? We've got 3 flights together. Silly girl. You have no idea, every time you're on board, my heart starts racing. Good night, Dad on E. Chapter 19. The airline was preparing to shoot a new promotional magazine, and I had been chosen as the image representative for the issue. At first, I didn't think much of it. I just began preparing based on the materials the photography team had sent me. But on the day of the shoot, when I arrived at the studio, I realized that the photography company belonged to Han Group. Since the company's name didn't carry the Han brand, I hadn't made the connection at all. Miss, are you all right? The makeup artist had clearly noticed that something was off about me. I shook my head. I'm fine. I quickly pulled myself together. I was overthinking. It was just one of their smaller subsidiaries. The photographer, a man in his 30s, walked over. Miss, did you go through the notes I sent you before the shoot? Yes, I did. Carefully. A week before, they had sent over the shooting brief, so I could familiarize myself with the concept and poses. When everything was ready and the lights came on, I stepped into the center of the set. Miss Daniela, relax your shoulders a bit. Good, that's perfect. These poses were ones we'd learned during flight attendant training, nothing difficult. With a few reminders, I could follow along easily. But what I hadn't expected was for Oscar Hahn to show up midway through the shoot. The moment I saw him, every muscle in my body tensed. President Hahn. The staff immediately nodded and greeted him respectfully. He glanced toward the set, where I stood under the lights. How's it going? He asked the manager beside him. Quite well, the manager replied. As expected from a flight attendant, her posture is excellent. Just a little tense. If she relaxes more, the shots will be perfect. The photographer turned the camera display toward him. With a bit more ease, it'll be flawless. Oscar nodded slightly. Continue shooting. I assumed he'd leave after that, but even after several more sets of photos, he stayed, quietly observing the shoot. Miss Daniela, your first few shots were actually your best ones, the photographer said, lowering his camera. In other words, the pictures I'd just taken were worse than before. Then came the sharp click of the shutter. Oscar raised his hand, stopped for a moment, let her rest. At last, my tense nerves loosened. Get her a cup of warm water, he instructed. Yes, President Hahn. He took the camera and began reviewing the photos himself. Miss Daniela, have some water. The makeup artist came over to fix my foundation, smiling as she encouraged me. Just think of it like taking a casual photo. You don't have to be so nervous. You've got a great figure and such a photogenic face. You look stunning even just standing there. The photographer can tell you've got the potential for an even better result. Keep it up. Thank you for saying that. I glanced toward Oscar, who was still looking through the images. Then he looked up. Our eyes met briefly. I quickly looked away and took a sip of water. To my surprise, he walked over, camera in hand, and leaned casually against the makeup counter. Relax later, he said softly. Your photos are turning out well. I nodded slightly. He then turned to the makeup artist. Don't make it too heavy, he said. She looks best with light makeup. And with that, he walked off with the camera. Those few words seemed to ripple through the entire studio. Everyone turned to look at me. After my makeup was retouched, I didn't linger any longer. I stepped back into the center of the set, ready to continue. A few clicks later, stopped for a moment. My palms were already slick with sweat. Still not good enough. Still not what they wanted. Then he walked over. He raised his hand, gently placing it on my shoulder. Close your eyes, he said quietly. Take a deep breath. I froze, staring up at him. His dark eyes held mine for a second. Calm, steady, unreadable. I obeyed, closed my eyes, inhaled slowly. Don't open them until you've truly relaxed, he said, his tone low but firm. Imagine that everyone outside the frame is an animal, a rabbit, a tiger, a cat. So I did. The makeup artist became a rabbit, the stylist, a goat, the photographer, a monkey, and him, he was a lion, cold, elegant, dangerous. He lifted his hand from my shoulder. I opened my eyes. And somehow, all the tension had drained away. He stepped back to the side. The photographer handed him the camera with a grin. "President Han, why don't you take a few shots yourself?" To everyone's surprise, he actually took it. And luckily, this time, with him behind the lens, I didn't feel nervous at all. During the shoot, I overheard whispers. He had once won an international photography award. The rest of the session went perfectly, whether it was solo portraits, prop shots, or scenario poses. Everything flowed naturally. When it was finally done, the photographer smiled. "Thank you for your hard work, Miss Daniela. That's a wrap. You've all worked even harder," I said, nodding gratefully. As I was gathering my things, a familiar voice sounded behind me. "It's getting cold. Put this on." I turned around. Casey had arrived without me noticing. He draped his jacket over my shoulders. "When did you get here?" "Been here a while," he said, smiling. "Came straight after today's flight. Wanted to see how your shoot went." "I was right here. You didn't even notice me, heartless woman." He tapped my nose lightly, pretending to sulk. I swatted his hand away. I was focused on shooting. Who had time to notice anyone else? "Wait for me. I'll pack up and we'll go." I turned back to the makeup counter, collecting my belongings. As I passed the workstations, I saw Oscar sitting in front of the monitor, reviewing the photos intently. "Invite the crew to dinner," I heard him say to no one in particular. "They've worked hard all day." When I reached Casey, he caught my hand gently. "Call everyone," he whispered near my ear. "Dinner's on me." I hesitated. If Oscar hadn't been there, I would have agreed without a second thought. But with him in the room, everything felt complicated. "What's wrong?" "All right, I'll do it," Casey said, thinking I was just shy. He strode over to the photographer and clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Hey man, great job today. Bring everyone out for dinner, my treat." The staff immediately brightened, but the photographer still tried to refuse. "Oh, that's too kind. We can't. This is our job." "Come on, don't be so formal," Casey insisted with an easy smile. After that, no one declined. I glanced over at Oscar. He was still focused on the screen, scrolling through the photos. Expression unreadable. There was something about him, that quiet, restrained air of an artist, that I had never noticed before. For the first time, I realized how little I actually knew him. I had always thought of him as the cold, distant head of the Han group. But here, in this studio light, he seemed different. Then the photographer approached him cautiously. "President Han, Miss Daniela's boyfriend invited us all to dinner." I felt my heart tighten. Everyone was waiting for his response. No one dared to move until he spoke. "Go ahead," he said finally. "I'll come too." The whole studio fell silent for a moment. Then a wave of relief spread through the room. Casey chuckled, reaching for my hand again. "Let's go," he said softly. Chapter 20. Because there were many of us, we chose a Chinese restaurant for dinner. Casey didn't seem to notice anything unusual, but I could feel the strange tension in the air. Of course, I was the only one who could sense it. No one else knew about my past with Oscar. After ordering, the conversation quickly came alive. "So, handsome, what do you do for a living?" one of the staff asked teasingly. Casey grinned. "I fly planes." A collective gasp followed. "You're a captain?" He nodded with an easy smile. "That's amazing. No wonder you look so sharp. I've heard pilots are 1 in a million. We've met plenty of good-looking guys in this industry. But when you walked into the studio earlier, all the girls couldn't stop sneaking glances at you. A pilot and a flight attendant, what a perfect match. So charming together." "To be honest," another staffer said, "I've seen many flight attendants. But Daniela's temperament is something else, so calm, so serene, like a lily in bloom. Oh, and her skin is flawless." Their compliments made my cheeks flush. "You guys are too sweet." Just then, Casey raised his voice cheerfully. "The food's here, everyone's tired. Let's dig in." Out of habit, my eyes wandered and met Oscar's. He hadn't eaten much the entire evening. His gaze lingered quietly, watching Casey and me from across the table. Casey noticed too. Not to your taste, President Han? He asked casually. Should we order a few more dishes? It's fine, Oscar replied simply, lowering his gaze and picking up his chopsticks. The photographer then stood up, lifting his cup of tea. President Han, you're always at headquarters. It's rare we get to have dinner together. Allow me to toast you with tea instead of wine. Oscar stood and raised his glass slightly, his composure impeccable. Then let me toast all of you in return. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication to Han Group. Everyone drank. Then the conversation shifted again, this time toward us. Wait, we also need to toast Captain Chen and Miss Daniela, someone said. Thank you for the dinner. Wishing you both endless happiness and love. Yes, when you two get married, don't forget to invite us. We expect wedding invitations. Casey filled my teacup and took my hand with a grin. Thank you for your blessings. We will. As our cups clinked, I couldn't help noticing. Oscar was the only one still sitting. 8 people stood smiling and toasting, and he alone remained seated, unmoving. The sight was jarringly out of place. His employees looked uneasy, exchanging glances, unsure what to do. Then his phone rang. He picked it up. Excuse me, I need to take this. He left the table, and just like that, the atmosphere around the table lightened again, and everyone drank heartily, laughing once more. Chapter 21. After finishing our meal together, the staff from the filming crew said they had to rush back to work overtime. They hurried off in a cab. Oscar came out and walked toward his car. Because of flight regulations, airlines usually don't allow pilots to drive. Casey usually takes taxis when going out. I'll take you back to your dorm. No need. That's too much of a detour for you. It's fine. Or, you could move in with me. Get lost. Come on. The car's here. He smiled and tightened my collar a bit. The wind was chilly that night. Unable to argue with him, I got into the taxi with him. He dropped me off at my dorm first. As the car drove away, I deliberately looked back. Oscar's car had started up too. When we arrived downstairs, I was about to get out. Get some rest early. I'll come pick you up tomorrow morning. Don't. You already wake up early enough. No need to pick me up. Captains usually get up very early, sometimes as early as 4:30 in the morning, to have breakfast and do pre-flight checks at the airline. He raised an eyebrow and wrapped an arm around my waist, not letting go. Tomorrow morning's the only time I'll see you. Isn't that reason enough? We're not on the same flight tomorrow. Then he leaned close to my ear, lowering his voice. If you don't agree, I won't let go. I glanced toward the driver waiting in the front seat, then pinched him lightly. Fine. I got out of the car, and the taxi drove away. I stood at the entrance for a while, a little dazed. Only 6 months, and it seems I've already fallen into a new relationship. I once thought it would take me a long time to get over that suffocating marriage. But who exactly have I met? Just like that. He's taken my hand, and I'm about to board his pirate ship. Beep beep. I was just about to head upstairs when I heard the sound of a car horn. I looked over. Under the big tree to my left, a black sedan was parked. Oscar? Sure enough, he was the one who stepped out. He walked toward me without saying anything, just looking at me. Only this time, his eyes had changed. No longer so cold, softer now. I asked, "What is it?" He looked up briefly at the building behind me. "Can I come up for a bit?" I frowned slightly. "If there's something to say, you can say it here." He gave a small, bitter smile. "You've changed. Before, whenever you looked at me, you always had so much to say, but you'd force it all down. Now, when you look at me, your eyes are empty, like there's nothing left to say at all." I looked down. "We're divorced. Divorced. No ties left between us. There's a cafe ahead. Can we sit there for a while?" I looked at the tree beside us, its yellow leaves falling to the ground, then shook my head. "I should go up. I have work tomorrow." I stuffed my hands into my coat pockets. Seeing that he didn't say anything more, I turned and headed toward the stairwell. "Daniela, I regret it." His voice split through the cold night air like lightning. Even the air went still. After a moment, he continued, "I can feel it. You once loved me deeply, but I didn't cherish it. I even thought grandfather was being overbearing, forcing someone I barely knew into my life. So I couldn't accept you. I couldn't understand. Why did your eyes hold so much of me when we barely even knew each other? I thought you only wanted the Han family's money and status. Until after you moved out. I happened to find this pen at home. Turns out, we met 7 years ago. You were being cornered by someone, and I helped you. I turned around. In his hand was the very pen he had dropped back then. Time rewound. In the summer of my senior year of high school, I was stopped on my way home after class by a group of thugs. They yanked at my hair and clothes, refusing to let me go. Inside, I was trembling with fear. They even pulled out a knife, forcing me toward an abandoned alley. If he hadn't passed by that intersection and stepped in to help, I don't know what would have happened to me that day. Maybe my life would have been ruined right then. Even though he was alone, and there were 5 or 6 of them, he still walked up. He shouted, "What are you doing?" They saw he was alone and shoved him. "Mind your own business. Kid, get lost." He suddenly threw a punch, hitting the one who pushed him, then turned to me. "Run." They all attacked him at once. In the end, he was beaten badly, his head was bleeding, but he still held on, refusing to give up. When voices started echoing from the entrance of the alley, the thugs panicked and ran off. I went over and took out some tissues to wipe the blood from his forehead. "Are you okay? I'll take you to the hospital." He picked up his phone, which had been ringing on the ground, and held it to his ear. "You guys are all there? I'll be right over." After hanging up, he bent down to pick up his books. "I'm fine. Go home quickly. I have to get going. Can you leave me a contact number? I'll pay you back for the medical expenses later." I called after him as he walked away. All I had on me was a few coins of pocket money. "No need. It's just a scratch." He didn't even turn his head before leaving. That day, he saved me, but he didn't really look at me. Yet, I never forgot his face. He had dropped a pen. I picked it up, chased after him, wanting to return it, but he had already taken a cab and left. Through my entire senior year, I did nothing but study. Nothing ever broke into my repressed high school life until that moment of courage from him, which stayed with me for years. Fate wasn't cruel to me. After all, after graduation, it arranged for us to meet again and even made me his wife. We met again under the introductions of our elders, but he didn't recognize me at all. At the dinner table, he was distant. I could tell right away he wasn't happy about this marriage, not wanting to make things hard for him. I was about to tell grandfather to call it off, but then he suddenly agreed to it, only asking to keep everything simple. Looking back now, he must have accepted some kind of deal from his grandfather in exchange for agreeing to marry me. But I, foolishly, thought time would change things, that after we married, I could win his heart through patience and care. I was too naive. After marriage, the coldness around him never melted. No matter what I did, a forced marriage could never bring happiness. All we ever shared was ice, nothing but ice. We couldn't even have a proper conversation during the entire marriage. "Oscar, it's all in the past. Let's both move on." He stepped closer, his tall frame blocking my way, and grabbed my hand again. "But it's only now I realize, without you, something's missing in my life. Daniela, let me try again, please?" Inside, a tremor went through me, but what followed was firm denial. "Don't. Oscar, you have no idea, those 2 years. When you kept showing up on flights with different women, do you know how much it hurt? And I couldn't even show it. It was my working time, from childhood till now. I've known pain for many things, but none of them ever came close to 1% of what you put me through." He lowered his head, guilt darkening his eyes. "I'm sorry, but I need to explain. There was never anything between me and them. They were just passengers who happened to sit with me on the plane. I was so foolish back then. I never really looked at you. I only thought you were someone my grandfather had forced into my life. Someone I had to spend a lifetime with. I couldn't accept that. I just wanted freedom, to end that bond as soon as possible. But when we finally divorced, I only felt relieved for a moment, then suddenly, nothing felt right anymore. In those 2 years I tried so hard to ignore you, but that only made things worse. You carved yourself into me, into my body, into my mind, and I didn't even realize it. I pulled my hand free and took a step back, tilting my head toward the sky. The stars were beautiful tonight, but it was too cold. No one would willingly stand in this cold just to admire the stars. So why did you have to understand all this so late? Why couldn't you just talk to me properly once in those 2 years? You knew I was miserable, didn't you? You watched me drowning in pain and chose indifference. Oscar, I can't go back. He leaned in, gently pressing his forehead against mine. His voice was low, warm against the winter air. You don't have to turn back. This time, I'll come to you. My phone buzzed. I took it out. Dad on E. Are you asleep? Make sure to rest well. Good night. Oscar withdrew his hand. I put the phone away and looked at him. You should go. I really need to head upstairs. He nodded. We turned away from each other and began to walk off. Suddenly, from behind me, his voice called out, Daniela, which city are you flying to tomorrow?